Welcome to the Drummers Debate, episode 8, and today we have Tobias Ralph.
Hey, to be back. Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
And man, I can't get over how good you are as a drummer.
Right.
Serious, man.
I'm just a drummer. So,
All right, so today's topic is playing to a click.
Yes.
I know a lot of guys that are amazing drummers, but when it comes to recording sessions and when it comes to playing live to a click, it's really hard for them to focus and stay on the click. So they easily get off and they come back on.
Absolutely.
They can't consistently stay on the click, which is very important if you're playing to a click, recording to a click. And now in these modern days, mostly all recordings are recorded to a click.
Absolutely.
How would you improve recording to a click or prepare for recording to a click?
Well, it's a good question. I think there are many techniques to do this. I think first of all, it's very important as a drummer that you also develop a good internal clock. I sort of talk to a lot of students about that, and that is meaning that that even when you turn off a click, that you're still able to sort of stay in time and not move. And that's sort of one of the things I like to do also is always sort of have a kind of a steady stream of like 16th note subdivisions running through my head. Just like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, no matter what I'm playing, or even if it's something really slow, just feeling that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, So I'll try and keep that count going in my head, but sort of as I'm preparing for stuff or working, even just working on playing in time is sort of I'll sit with a metronome at a drum set, and purposely set like the metronome to a really slow tempo, like 50 BPMs, and really try and see how well I can sit in the pocket with it, where I'm not rushing ahead, where I'm not falling behind.
Wow, that's extremely difficult to play that slow.
Where I'm sitting right with it, and there's that sort of this term that we have called bury the click, that we're so right on the click that we don't even hear it. You know what I mean? And that's a really difficult thing to do. That's something that I constantly like to work on, is playing to a click that's set really slow, where it's and one of the hardest things to do is even very simple fills, or doing grooves but not putting the ghost notes in. So meaning, okay, yes, I'm thinking 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, but I'm not, gonna sort of necessarily play all these subdivisions on the drum. I'm not going. Sometimes I am, but sometimes I'm just having to do.
Leaving that space in there.
And that's really hard.
Difficult,
And that's the other end. Everybody's sort of wanting to play faster and faster and faster, which is great. But also the other end is playing to a click and playing really slow. One of my first recording sessions that I ever did, the person was like, okay, well, here's the click. Well, it was a medium tempo. And, it was sort of a straight kind of rock song. They're like, okay, that's great, but now, take out all those ghost notes you're doing because it's cluttering up the groove. And as soon as I took out the ghost notes, it was almost impossible for me to play to the click, you know, because I was so reliant on filling up that space,
Right.
you know, to sort of get from one quarter note to the next quarter note, that I had to fill up all this, you know. So even I was playing, you know, but I'm doing that, you know, that's what I was supposed to be doing, but then I was, you know, I had to do like, you know.
Yeah, that's keeping you in
like,
time.
all right, they're like, excuse me, Mr. Ralph, you know, take all, just do the, you know, so one take, yeah, man, that was really good. You know, can you hear the click okay? And you're like, okay, you know, that's like code for like, you're not cutting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, God bless it, you know, so it's okay. So, you know, those kind of things are real eye-opener and real humbling, and you don't want to be that guy in a session and all of a sudden you're like, I can't play to a click, you know? So...
And that applies to all musicians,
It
too. They
applies
can
to-
all think that way.
Yeah.
And use those techniques
Yeah.
to improve their...
Absolutely.
Their technique
Everybody
too.
needs to, you know, everybody needs to play with a good time and be able to play with a click, you know? And especially as a drummer, I mean, I've played with musicians who are better than me, you know, and have better time than me. And that's, you know, you want to be able to have that so dialed in, you know, that you can just, okay, I'm on the click, boom, in there. And all your fills are, you know, not rushing up behind, but sitting right with that click. Or if you're tending to play, or if you're playing something that where you're a little bit behind, but make sure it's sort of like a consistent thing, you know. But you know, there's different sides to all that way of thinking. You know, it's like, you know, what Keith Richards said about Charlie Watts. You know, it was like, all right, you know, so listen to Charlie. All right, here he is in the verse, and it's sitting really nice. Okay, and as we get to the chorus, he does a fill, and he kind of speeds up a little bit into the chorus, and it, you know, kind of picks up a tempo. So, you know, it depends on the type of music, and sometimes, you know, the fact that the music is kind of moving around a little bit, but still feels great, you know, is okay. You know, I mean, early recordings of Billy Cobham with the Mahavishnu Orchestra, you know, and we have, you know, and it's sitting in the pocket and it's feeling great. Then you skip to like the end of the tune, which is like maybe 12 or 15 minutes later, you know, and it's
Right.
but it still feels, you know, feels great, you know. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, live you can sort of have that flexibility, depending on the type of music you're playing. You know, obviously if you're playing a Katy Perry gig or a Lady Gaga or so, those kind of things, you know, you're pretty much always on playing to a click or to a sequencer, you know, so there's not. But in terms of sort of more R&B or funk music, yeah, it may pick up tempo a little bit live, you know, but that's, you know, you're creating energy, and you're also, you know, if it feels still good, then it's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so, but in the studio, you know, you sort of have to have. Well, I mean, sorry, let me take that back. In general, you always need to have good time. You know, you need to have it in yourself that, like, okay, you know, I have to be my own click track as well. And, you know, and be comfortable with the click, you know, not think of the click as sort of your enemy, but sort of think of it as like, you know, your partner in crime, you know, like a percussionist, You know, that's sort of like how I have to try and look at it, is like it's something that I'm playing along with.
Right.
You know, so I kind of have to, you know, and yes, you know, a percussionist, you know, or a person will, you know, kind of go with you and with you, but, you know, you sort of have to be hand in hand with that click and sort of know where to space everything, you know. So sometimes I will put the click on really slow like that and try to, you know, play everything that I normally would play, whatever, you know, a lot of notey stuff or whatever, or not notes, and try and play, you know, really slow. Like, okay, you know, here's my 16th note groove. Okay, first just quarter notes. Got some 16th note subdivisions. Now, what if I wanted to try and play, you know, some quintuplets, you know, fives and like. You know, so every kind of note, subdivision, table of time, you know, I want to try and make sure that it's sitting with that click in the proper way, that I'm not rushing things, you know, that I'm giving it the appropriate space. And, you know, and then on top of playing with good time, you have to make it feel good as well. You know, that's the responsibility is, you know, is of the other end of what makes a great drummer. You know, and it's not necessarily always all the technical ability. You know, technique is sort of part of it. You know, technique is an aid to, you know, also help you with your sound and to execute ideas when you have them. But most of the time, you know, when you're working to just, you know, play a great groove, you know, or swing really hard, you know, whatever. But, you know, you're there to kind of make things feel good and to figure out how to do that. And all the best guys in the world can do that. You know, that they can sort of put on different masks, so to speak, for each situation. You know, it's sort of like, you know, if you listen to, you know, say you listen to Joe's Garage or Vinnie Colaiuta on Joe's Garage, right? And you hear all the incredible playing that he's doing, outlandish, you know, incredible stuff. But then you go and listen to a tune like Give Me the Night by George Benson. And you might not even think that it was the same drummer, but it is. You know what I mean? So, and he's able to, you know, put on a different face and go, okay, so what's the producer asking me to do? What do I need to do?
Right.
You know, I need to sit down here and I'm just going to pocket it. Because, you know, this is not a free-for-all. I'm here to try and make people, you know, if this goes out on the radio or whatever, I'm here to try and make people dance. So I'm just going to do... and that's it.
Right.
You know? So... those are the kind of things that are going to keep you working.
Definitely.
It's going, okay, you know, I got to play pocket, I got to play with the click, you know, I got to make it feel good, and I have to make good musical decisions, you know. So that's another big thing, is what does each style of music require me to play? You know, what kind of fills are required in this type of music? What's the feel? What's... you know, like in the last episode, dynamics. You know, those are all these things are come into play in being a good drummer, a good musician.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own tactics of keeping in time too.
Mm-hmm.
I had the weirdest tactic of keeping myself in time to the metronome, especially at low tempos.
Mm-hmm.
I would chew gum to the beat.
I
I chew gum, so like even though like I'm not filling those spaces,
Yeah.
I'm chewing to the beat, which is helping me.
Yeah, sure.
It's so weird.
No, but that's that's something that we all do. Whatever we do, we have to, whether it's you're playing and you're kind of doing this type of thing, or
Yeah.
or digging in here and having to kind of, as drummers, we kind of also sort of have to, we also have to think about, we're kind of like dancers as well, so what does each music kind of require? Does it kind of require this forward motion? Does it require a side to side motion? Those are key things in figuring out
Right.
what, and yeah, I mean, chewing gum. I remember I had a great story. Like I was in orchestra once, and I was playing a snare drum part, and I didn't realize, but I was chewing actually completely out of time. I was just like. And the conductor's cutting it, and he's looking at me, and like he starts conducting with my gum chewing, and he's like stops. He's like, "You gotta spit the gum out." He's like, "Because I'm watching you, I'm trying to conduct, and you're conducting. You're chewing like in some other land." And he's like, "I can't focus." I was like, "Okay, fine." So, but yeah, absolutely. Like kind of. If you have to kind of move your jaw to keep in time, whatever, those are, I would sometimes, I noticed I would do like if I was playing something slow and I was, they didn't want any ghost notes, I would sort of, kind of keep my limbs going in between, to kind of feel out all the subdivisions in between, and that was like one of the things that I learned when I was studying lessons at the Collective with this guy Pete Zeldman. Was like he would sort of have me play all these funk grooves, but he would have me extract notes from the groove, but still keep my limbs going, So it looked kind of crazy. So I was like, he's like, so then I'd like kind of like kind of have he would have like sort of like the reverse. Like pull your hands off the drums, and play like just these key notes,
Right.
but still keep your body in the groove.
And that's still helping you control your time.
Exactly, because everything is sort of still going, but you're not cluttering up the groove. Like if you're if you're playing a ballad, oh yeah, here is a ballad, but I wanted to go. They're gonna be like, okay, out.
That's too much.
Too much. We want.
Right.
Now that's a really hard thing to make feel good. Keep in time. Make those fills mean, space, a lot for. So those are really, those are really crucial things. Becoming a good, musicians in the studio, and live, because live now you also have to spend a lot more time probably playing to a click.
Definitely.
And you don't, as a drummer, you don't want to be the guy who's got like the worst time on stage. You don't want it to be like, oh, the bass player's got better time.
Yeah, you got to hold it down. That's your job.
You got to hold it down, and that's, and I had those situations as well where, like, I went in there and the bass player was playing and I was like, oh my God, man, like he's got better time than I do, I could feel it, and he would. And I could feel myself like starting to rush ahead, and he would kind of like, "Come on, pocket it, try,
I remember one guy, I posted a solo online once, and for a while it was I can keep time on a click, but starting a fill and ending a fill, it wasn't ending on the click perfectly. And a guy watched me, and he said, I noticed you're doing something that you will never notice that you're doing while you're playing fills.
Yeah.
He told me, and I don't know how he figured this out, but he figured out that I hold my breath when I play fills. And he's like, just breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that helped me a lot. And
Yeah.
I didn't notice I was doing it. And I was like, hold on a second, how did you know I was doing that?
Yeah.
He's like, I used to do that a lot too. And when I started breathing, it helped me adapt to the click much better.
Yeah, breathing is a big, that's all. I mean, it's such a physical instrument. We have to kind of go with the, be able to breathe in and take in, and take in these, breaths to sort of kind of keep things going, and, it's a breathing thing. And I mean, that's why, like, it's so funny because sometimes I would watch Steve Gadd and he would sometimes do the opposite thing, and he would actually hold his breath for certain things because then he would talk afterward and he would be totally winded.
Interesting.
Because, he would kind of breathe in these phrases. So sometimes but he had such innately incredible time that, he didn't rush. But he would do these incredible passages, and he was, a lot of it also was that he was singing these phrases also in his head. So you hear him, and he's doing these phrases, and he's, kind of holding it and breathing, and then, land, and then, he would talk, be like, okay, so now, but he was really taking the time to kind of breathe in those phrases,
Right.
It's very important to do that, and to kind of breathe. Sometimes, yes, there are times where we need to kind of hold our breath, but, it's such a physical instrument that you have to keep breathing in order to kind of keep oxygen in your muscles, going, especially for faster stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like, okay.
It's like running.
Yeah, it's like running. That's what I say to a lot of my students, especially who are in their, we're sort of doing more technical things, when we do these murder hand boot camp things. It's not necessarily about, it's about breathing, and it's not always necessarily about being as fast as you can, but it's about, endurance, throwing in little speed workouts within that, and evenness of strokes also. It's sort of like, if you go for something just necessary for speed's sake, it could sound very much like just diarrhea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
It has to be clean.
Has to be clean. And, it's like the first time I saw Steve Gadd give a drum clinic, and, he sat down in the snare drum and he just did an open stroke roll, double stroke roll. And it was beautiful. And it wasn't fast, but it was super even, and that sort of made the roll sound 10 times better than if it had been at warp speed, because it was so even. So, that's also a thing, is, and what makes, like, these death metal players so incredible. Like, when we hang out with our friend John Longstreth, who's, he's an incredible death metal player, but he's, he plays a lot of different stuff, but, he has such power, but he's fast, he's really fast, but he's also very even with his strokes. And that's, that's the thing that is so kind of crazy about these guys, is that they're focused. Yes, there's a machine-like quality to it,
right,
but they're focused on keeping their strokes even, really even. Because in order to sort of play that way, you can't, yes, we all sort of, when we're playing speed, we'll kind of sort of do these, these kind of rollouts or stuff like that, But the ultimate thing is that you don't necessarily want to hear those accents, so you have to figure out ways, to kind of keep it even sounding.
Right.
And I found that through trying to work on this stuff that it's, speed is crucial, but it's also crucial for it to be even. Otherwise it just sounds like, and there's a tendency for kids to want to focus so much on getting faster, but they're not getting faster in the sort of proper way. They're not getting faster for endurance. They're not getting, faster for a better sound on the drums. They're not getting faster for evenness. They're sort of doing it, so they can go, oh, I can play, at 250, and, that's, and that's a great goal to work for and all that, but not if it's not going to be even, and it's just going to sound like
mush. It's going to sound sloppy.
Yeah. So, that's the other thing is, and you're again working with a click and making sure that, so sometimes like when we do these things, and I'm working either on the drum set or Brad, is that I'll put, I'll put the metronome on either sometimes a half note, so if we're doing an exercise where it's like, the quarter note should be here, and our 16ths are going, so sometimes I put the quarter note on half notes, so I can try and get comfortable with the spaces, and sometimes it's really hard where you just have
That's the only click that's there?
And that's the only click that's there.
That's so difficult.
Whole notes,
Mm-hmm. I feel like they're just making your job harder. Just double click that for me. Just add those quarters for me, please.
Ultimately it is harder. Mm-hmm. It's much harder, but that's also what you have to kind of get comfortable with is being able to feel those large quadrants of time in between and not rush it. Like was a great thing with Peter Erskine and Neil Peart. And Neil Peart was taking lessons with Peter Erskine and wanting to learn more about playing the jazz ride cymbal pattern. And Peter would sort of have this exercise where you'd have him play time for a measure, and then you would take the click out for a measure and then bring the click back in. And so Neil could really see where he was rushing, and so Peter was trying to say, look, this is just trying to get you to think about where to sit in the time, and not rush it and not make it sit there. It's a very hard thing to do.
Rush it or overly slow down.
Or
also
overly slow down, but it's gotta sit there. So it's like, once that click is off, it's up to you and your brain to sort of feel that click still be there. If it's like, okay, now. Like,
that's difficult.
It's really difficult,
Yeah.
It's really difficult. So, those are just things that are good, sort of working guides to do when we're playing this stuff. Or, sometimes the opposite thing, like putting your click track on a 16th note subdivision, so it's playing every single subdivision, and you're having to line up with it as absolutely dead on. So it's going ticka 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 and you have to line up with that immediately. So
that's tough.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Tough.
I think all musicians should know how to play to a click, or learn how to play to a click. Mm-hmm. And practicing to a metronome is definitely a step. I mean, even if you're a guitarist practicing chords or riffs, it applies to all musicians. We all practice the same way in terms of trying to keep time.
Yeah.
And it's all
Absolutely.
to a metronome.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, but you can also do things and give yourself a break and put on, you know, a close to metronomically on record, like, you know, any Michael Jackson tune, you know, anything that has Jeff Porcaro or J.R. Robinson, you know, or, you know, Earl Palmer, or, you know, where the you know, the time is, you know, they may have been playing to click some of the time. Sometimes maybe they're not.
Phil Collins.
You know, Phil Collins. But it's, you know, feels great. You know, so there's that part too. You know, is to sort of, you know, you have to be able to play to a click, but also, you know, making it feel good. That's a whole other thing as well.
Yeah,
you know?
some people could play to a click, but if they're slightly ahead sometimes and slightly behind sometimes, it kind of feels off, even though it's still on.
Yeah.
And it completely throws off the feel
Oh yeah.
of the part. And that's something I noticed sometimes when I first started playing to a click. Even though it was in time and I was following the click, I guess because I was so used to listening to machines, that it just felt off. If I was just a millisecond off. Yeah,
sure.
it's just to my ear, I'm like, that's off. Like, maybe nobody else can hear that, but I'm hearing it and it's really bothering me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's, you know, your ear gets better and better as you can, you know, sort of detect, like, you know, and that's a good thing. It's like then you can kind of play off of the click and go, okay, wait, I'm rushing here. So your internal clock becomes better as well. You know, like, oh yeah, I hear that. Yeah, hear where I'm rushing, or hear where, you know.
Right.
It's important. So
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
This was Drummers Debate episode 8 with Tobias Ralph. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Loved it. And I love your playing. I just want to let you know, okay?
I'll pay you later. I know I owe someone money. I know I do.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, awesome.
That's great, man.